Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you have not noticed already, the unit that we are on requires some knowledge that you either might not have been exposed to or really don't remember. The first of them being what we call a special right triangle. So I have two triangles here. One is an equilateral, okay, and the other is an isosceles right, okay. We're going to work with the equilateral first, and through that we're going to build what we call a 30, 60, 90 right triangle, okay. So in an equilateral triangle we have all equal sides and all equal angles. Since a triangle sums to 180 degrees, each of our angles is worth 60 degrees. Okay, I'm going to erase that top 60. You'll see why in a minute. All right, now it also means that all of my sides are equal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say each side is equal to 2. Again, you'll see why in a minute. All right, then, okay, what I'm going to do with my equilateral triangle is that I'm going to do what we call drop an altitude. So basically, I'm going to add a segment that will tell me how tall my equilateral triangle is. Now, when you add an altitude to an equilateral triangle, what it does is it cuts the angle in half. So this 60-degree angle at the top actually becomes a 30. And then this is a 90-degree angle. And then we bisect the opposite side. So instead of having a side that's 2, we can think of it as 1 and 1 on each side of my altitude. Okay. Now, what will happen is we can use the Pythagorean theorem to find the height of my triangle. Okay. So what I'm going to do is this side is my hypotenuse. This side is a leg. And this side right here, I'm going to call it B, is my other leg. Okay, so Pythagoras leg squared plus leg squared is equal to hypotenuse squared, also known as a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Excuse me. 1 squared plus b squared is equal to 2 squared. So we have 1 b squared is equal to 4. And then if we solve it, we get our altitude is 3. Square root of 3, I should say. So we have built what we call a 30, 60, 90 right triangle. This is referred to as one of our special right triangles, and its lengths are 1, radical 3, and then 2. Please note that your 2 is the hypotenuse. Okay? All right, now let's move on to our 45, 45, 90. This is a isosceles right, which means that 2 of the sides are the same length. And also we have 2 congruent angles. So let's just say that the lengths of my legs are both 1. This is the 45 and this is the 45. Okay, so now what I need to do is I need to find the length of my hypotenuse. Okay, so again, using Pythagoras' theorem, leg squared plus leg squared is equal to hypotenuse squared. We have 1 squared plus 1 squared. We'll call it c squared. So we have 1 plus 1 is 2, and then take the square root. Okay, so here is the second of our special right triangles, which is a 45, 45, 90. And it has sides of 1, 1, radical 2. Okay? We are going to be using these special right triangles to build something called the unit circle. Okay, so before we begin talking about the unit circle, we need to talk about how we measure angles on the coordinate plane. Okay, so here I have a XY axis with a circle around it. Okay, so this is my x-axis, and this is my y-axis. And I have a circle of some radius. Okay, now when I graph a point that's on the circle itself, okay, so let's just pick a point over here. Okay, it's going to have the coordinates x, y. Okay, now since this is in the third quadrant, your x would be negative and your y would be negative, but your points are still x, y. Okay, all right, now let's talk about measuring angles. All right. So when you put a angle on the coordinate system, okay, you always start in what we call standard position. And that means the first side of your angle will always be on the positive x-axis. Okay, so the positive x-axis is right here. Okay, so our angles are always going to start there. Sometimes you'll hear me say the initial side. Okay, so now what's going to happen is angles are measures of rotation. So to be in a positive direction, we're going to go counterclockwise. Okay. Okay. So if I wanted to measure an angle out like this would be a positive angle. All right. The green would be the initial side. Okay. And then the black would be what we call the terminal side. Okay, now an angle can go all the way around that circle as many times it would like. Okay, so we can, do corkscrews. We can, just do like, an acute angle, an obtuse angle. We can also do an angle that's greater than 180 degrees now. Things like that. Okay, so the next up, if we want to go in the negative direction, it's going to go clockwise. So again, it will start at that standard position, the positive x-axis, okay? And if I want it to go negative, it's going to go like this. And the terminal side would be here. So again, this is a positive angle. And this is a negative angle. Now, all has to do with direction. So direction is highly important, okay? All right, so what we're gonna do is we are going to build our unit circle. Okay, now this unit circle has certain angles on it. Okay, you see a circle with all of these lines on it. Okay, so let's talk about just the X and Y axis, what you're used to. Okay, so here, this angle is 0 degrees. If I go up to the positive Y axis, this is 90 degrees. If I continue this way, all the way to the negative X axis, that would be 180 degrees. And if I go down a little bit farther to the negative Y axis, that would be 270 degrees. Now, if I so want to, I can go the full circle and wind up where I started back to 360 degrees. Okay. Now, you'll also notice that there is a kind of a purplish line, a blue line, and a green line, and you have one of those lines in each quadrant. Okay, so we're going to start with quadrant 1. Now remember, we talked about those 30, 60, 90, and those 45, 45, 90 triangles. Those are highly important. Okay, this is how we're going to build our unit circle. Okay, so this first line, that's 30 degrees. 45 degrees, and 60 degrees. Okay? Now, on the other side, in the second quadrant, we kind of have mirror images, but we're going to start, okay? Notice that these angles are above 90. So above 90, notice that there's 60 and then 90, there's 30 degrees in between. So from 90 to this line right here, you add 30 degrees, so 120. And then from 90 to the 45, that's 45 degrees. So this is going to be 135 degrees. And this is going to be 150 degrees. All right, continuing on down into the third quadrant. Okay, 180, 210 degrees, 225 degrees, and then 240 degrees. Okay, forgot my degree symbol. All right, now we're down into the fourth quadrant, 270. So that's 300, 315, and 330. Okay, now all of these are based on that 30, 60, 90, 45, 45, 90 triangle. Okay, and then this unit circle is not complete in any way, shape, or form. This is just the building. I just wanted to build the angles. In the next video, what we'll do is we'll start building the coordinates. So we're actually going to figure out what's the XY coordinate here, XY coordinate here, 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 all the way over here. Okay, we're going to figure out what all of these points are. And these points are going to be highly useful to us. Okay, so my big tip for you is the more familiar you are with the unit circle, the easier your life is going to be. Okay, so next video, we'll build the triangles on the unit circle.